need to change. Okay. Hello. No. Okay. Hello, and welcome to the last chapter more of the CODERUNNER series. I'm here with Emrah Uslu.
Hello, everyone.
And today we're going to talk about user pools and identities. So let's jump right in. All right. Today's agenda is we're going to introduce you to the Cognito service of the AWS. It's called Amazon Cognito, and we're going to walk you through the authentication flow of this service. We're going to mention some of the scenarios on the user's perspective and administrator's perspective. And we're going to take a look at how you interact with these events via the Lambda hooks in the extending with Lambda slide. And we're going to talk about Cognito Sync a little bit. And we're going to take a look at how we can use the Cognito service via .NET and C#, and there will be a lab, the demo after that. So, what is Cognito? Actually, Cognito is the user pool. You can interact, you can register your users, you can authenticate your users with this service. Actually, when you're building a website and you want to actually register users or have a relation between them, maybe it will be their products or something else, you have to actually record these lines, the user's information. And that is actually a hassle because there is a password authentication. There is actually, when you want to secure, it's a much more. You have to deal with the MFA, multi-factor authentication. You have to send SMSs or maybe mails. It's really straightforward, but it's a hassle, really. So Cognito solves that. And you can authenticate your users via maybe your custom login or Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus account. These are all provided to you via Cognito.
Or even enterprise identity providers like Microsoft Active Directory.
Yeah, that is too. Or you can have guest users. That is also supported. And Cognito Sync is a key-value pair for your user-specific needs. Maybe your users have a save data, maybe you are developing a game and you want to keep these users' save data to somewhere else. You can use Cognito Sync, or maybe it will be a basket for your e-commerce site. You can keep these kind of information there too. It's actually, we're going to talk about that in the other slides, but it's actually a really great way to keep in sync with the other clients because the user logs in maybe mobile device or after that in web. These are all in sync with the Cognito service. So that's a great way to keep users' data in sync. So that explains the Cognito Sync name. And As we mentioned before, you can sign in your users via Facebook, via Google+, via Twitter or something else. And Amazon Cognito's user pool is also a provider here. And there's guest users. You can have a guest user. These are all actually unauthenticated users in the Cognito site. And after that, we are using the identity pool. You can have a fixed time, maybe how to say, maybe 2 hours spent to actually access your resources in the Amazon. Maybe you want to access the S3 to write something to that. You can use identity pool to actually create a token that that is time spent is maybe 2 hours,
yeah, so
and that user can actually write and read from that S3 or DynamoDB in your resources. This is the authentication flow in the Cognito service. User signs into the your user pool, or maybe via Facebook or Twitter, something else, like I said before. And after that, a user can take that token and send it to the identity pool to actually have the AWS access to access your S3 or DynamoDB or API Gateway or other AWS services. There's this separation between the user pool and identity pool. A user pool is for your user information, your user list, and identity pool is for actually be able to connect to your resources via your user connections. So,
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
This authentication flows, does it support standards like OAuth or SAML or maybe OpenID or etc.?
Yeah, it supports these authentication flow too. But if you want to use, if you want to be able to use the Facebook or Twitter or something else, you can do that too. Or if you have a custom authentication flow, you can directly inject your code to this flow via the Lambda service. Okay. We're going to take a look at that too. So these are the user scenarios where if you want to sign up or sign in your users, if you want to verify your users via email or phone number, this is the right service. And users can change their password if they forget it, and you can actually have a user profile. Users have their names and surnames, etc. in the user profile tab, and you can update, set these properties via using the SDK. So you don't have to keep anything. Cognito actually keeps these informations for you.
So I can define attributes that there doesn't have built-in. So
yeah.
I can define custom attributes.
Right? Yeah, you can define custom attributes. There's actually a default attributes, something called email, phone, name, surname, etc. There comes default. You can make them required or not. These type of things is actually possible. or you can have your custom attributes too. So
nice.
And SMS-based MFA, multi-factor authentication is actually really good when you want to secure your infrastructure. And SMS-based MFA is comes built-in, so you can verify your users via SMS or email too. But SMS is basically much more secure.
Yeah.
So you can import your users with the CSV file, and the users will have to change their passwords when you upload it first, and each user must have an email or phone number at least, because that's the way Cognito actually matches the users. So actually, Cognito separates the email with the username. So maybe your user wants a different username, but uses some other email address. Users can change their username later. So that's actually cool too. So these are the administrator scenarios. You can create and manage your user pools. You actually have you can actually have multiple user pools. Maybe you want to use your first user pool for X application, and other one is for the Y application, etc., etc. So you can have multiple user pools, and you can manage your users via the management console or your SDKs, whatnot. And you can actually configure the verification type of the users. Maybe you want to verify them via email or SMS explicitly. So you can set these configurations too in the console. And customize lambda triggers, as we mentioned before. You can interact with the events via hooks. If you want to do something when a user signs up, you can do that too. Or maybe one user signs in, etc. And you can set up password policies. You can say that the minimum length of the password is this, maximum length is this, and password must have a uppercase letter, at least one, etc. You can say these things too. And yeah, as we mentioned before, you can define attributes. Yeah. So this is the this is where we take a look at the lambda interaction kind of things. You can hook. You can use lambda hooks to interact with the Cognito service. You can interact when a user signs up. Actually, if you want to have a custom validation for your users, you can have a pre-user sign-in hook. That way you can maybe block that user if you have a different custom controls behind. Or you can do that in the post-user sign-in. You can log, etc. These are the example scenarios here. And you can have custom messages and custom user confirmations with this lambda hooks too. So this is the Cognito sync. As we mentioned before, you can store data within that, and it's actually cross-device. When a user logs in, these data will be there too. It works online, offline, and online too. Cognito Sync actually uses a SQLite behind that. It fetches the data, stores that in the SQLite database locally, so it can actually have access to that data even when you're offline. And there's no backend. That's actually really great because that is a hassle to you if you want to mess with this type of scenarios. So these are the sample codes. We're going to take a look at that in the demo too. The Amazon Cognito Identity Provider client used here. This is the sign up request. In the left side, you give the client ID, password, username. We're going to take a look at all of that. So I'm going to skip. And here we are in the demo. We're going to create a user pool, and after that we're going to create a identity pool, and we're going to actually sign up a user, confirm a user, and after that authenticate the user. So this is it.
Yeah. As a side note, yeah. AWS Cognito supports security, industrial security standards like ISO 901 or etc. So you can use this service and you know that you are safe.
Yeah, if you are required to have these standards,
it's already supported.
Yeah. So let's actually change and go full screen. So first we're gonna go ahead and go into the Amazon console. After that we're gonna go to Cognito service, and from there we're gonna create a user pool. User pools is actually where the users are kept. So let's go ahead and create one. CODERUNNER. This is my pool name. You can type anything else. We're gonna go ahead and review the default configurations. Here you can see the required attribute is email here. You can change that and make the maybe gender, maybe middle name, and phone number, etc. Make them required. The email is required here. After that, you can see the minimum password length is 8, and password policy includes actually the minimum 1 uppercase letter, lowercase letter. You can have a look at that here. And it actually requires a number in it too, so it must be secure. After that, you can enable multi-factor authentication. If you want to verify with email, you can do that too. When a user signs in, they will receive an email that contains a confirmation code within that, and using that code, the user will be signed in. We're gonna create an app client after we create the pool. Let's go ahead and create. My user pool is created successfully. Let's copy this pool ID because I'm going to use that in the code. So let's copy and paste our user pool ID. After that, we're going to go ahead and go to the Federated Identities. Our user pool is actually done. This is for the access for the resources within your service. Let me explain that a little bit better. If you just want to authenticate your users and be done with it, you can actually use only the user pool. But if you want your users to access your S3, DynamoDB, etc., your services, your resources, you have to create a identity pool and match the user pool with that. It actually creates a roles for that and uses that role to create a new token for your users, and that way they can actually have access to your resources. So let's create before that we're gonna have to actually create an app client. I forgot that. So let's go ahead and add app client. We're gonna say add app client, and my app name is gonna be CodeRunner app. We're gonna untag the generate client secret. We're not gonna do that. We don't need that. This is the part we are going to select the authentication flow. We're going to select this one because we're going to actually have a backend and authenticate the users via a username and password. But if you want to have another custom authentication flow, you can select that and only allow the custom authentication flow. Or if you are importing the users and don't want them to change their password when they sign them, you can tick that and use the user password of here. So let's check the enable sign-in API for server-based authentication. We're going to use the admin SRP of flow here, and let's click create app client. So I'm going to copy and paste it to my client ID. That is done. After that, we're going to go to the Federated Identities and make them have access to our resources. Let's call it CodeRunner app. I actually make the other app's name with this identity pool name is exact, but you don't have to. If you want to enable access to unauthenticated identities, you can check that. That way, the guest users will have the access to your specific resources too. You can configure it because there will be two different roles when we're done with it. That way, this is the separation. And in the authentication providers, there is actually Cognito user pool here, or you can use Amazon or Facebook, Google, and here is the OpenID SAML providers.
Yeah, right.
And if you have a custom one, you can configure this too. We're gonna use the Cognito here, and we're gonna set the user pool ID and app client ID here, and I'm gonna hit create pool. So This is the part where the Amazon asks us to create two separate roles. This one is for the authenticated users. This one is for the unauthenticated users. You can actually have different policies for these roles. So let's click allow. Roles is created, and yeah, you can directly download the AWS SDK for Android here, or you can change to .NET or something else and get your AWS credentials this way. But this is for the client. We're not going to do client side. We're going to do server side in our demo. So we're not going to actually copy this code. We're going to go ahead and click the edit identity pool. And actually copy this identity pool ID and put that here too. So we're done with AWS console for now. So let's go ahead and create a project. Let's open up the Visual Studio. If it's possible. Come on.
As always, when you need it, it makes wait.
I'm already having a bad day. Please. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and create a new project. So we're going to create a new console app, and I'm going to call that CODERUNNER warp this term. Let it create my console app. We're going to actually have to do the app settings.json thing again because it's not comes built in. Let's go ahead and actually start getting our dependencies from that. First, we're going to install Microsoft. Go to Browse, Extensions, get Configuration. Let's search that. And we're going to install the JSON package because we're using a app settings.json file. Let's install that. And maybe you can install, let's click that, okay. Yeah, accept. We are actually in the console application. If you want to have your command line parameters, you can actually install this package too. Let's install this one too. Accept. After that, we're going to install AWS and Amazon related packages. First one is the AWS SDK .extensions .NET Core .setup. This is for the actually fetch the profile and region configuration from the configuration builder. It has actually different type of things in it too, but this is the reason we're using this today. After that, we're going to install a Cognito identity and Cognito identity provider. Because we are going to actually use the Cognito identity provider, this package is needed too. So let's install that. We're not going to use the Cognito sync today in our demo, but if you want to use that, this is the package you need to install. Let's install the Cognito identity provider too. So, our install is done, I guess. Yeah, okay. Let's build it first. Let that packages, yeah, build is successful. Let's create our app settings.json file. Add new item. We're going to create a JSON file, and let's call that app is settings.json. So, we're going to configure the AWS related configurations first. We are going to create a AWS object. Within that, there is going to be a profile. Our profile is default. You can see your profile configuration within the AWS Explorer. If you don't have this one, AWS Explorer, please watch the first warp and keep watching. All right.
If I think AWS Explorer is trying to be opened.
I guess. But Visual Studio is a great editor, and definitely the best IDE. Yeah. It's open. You can see the profile you're using. I'm using the default one, and my region is Oregon. It's US West 2. I'm going to configure my region 2. So it's actually the default one. After that, we're going to give the information that we saved before in our notepad. So let's create them here. Client ID is this one. User pool ID is this one. Let's actually have it like that. Yeah. You can do that too. and my identity pool ID is this. No, not this. So let's copy that again. Just to do, trying to do something else that I don't want to do. So yeah, after that we have to actually give another configuration. It's called identity provider. It's like this. Cognito dash idp dot identity provider dot your region dot amazonaws.com. This is for the actually fetch the AWS credentials, the credentials that have AWS resource access actually, and this is the configuration you want to have. And after that, let's not forget to change the app settings JSON files type. It's going to be a content, and I want to copy it to output directory always. So let's build it. Build is succeed. We are going to do async work here. Because of that, we actually have to async main method. I have a snippet for that. Let's delete it. And let's have the task from the threading. So, after that, we're going to fetch the configuration first. I have a snippet for that too. So let's fetch the usings. We're adding the app settings.json file here, and we actually installed the command line nugget package too. So let's use that too. You can use it at command line method. It actually gets the arguments from the main method. You can pass that here too. So our configuration is done. Let's have the AWS options. You can use config.getAWS options method to fetch that. With the options, we're going to create our client. Cognito client. Let's create it here. I'm going to call it Cognito. Options dot create service client. We're going to pass the Amazon dot Cognito identity provider dot Amazon Cognito identity provider. And after that, we can actually use the client's methods. There is a ton of them, but we're going to see the sign and confirmation and authentication initialization here. So I have a method for the password. I'm going to get a username and password. Okay. Thank you. We're going to get username, password, and mail address from the user. We're going to give the user to identity user pool and register that user. And after that, we're going to verify that user via the email. We're going to send a confirmation code to that email address and ask the user to input that. After that, we're going to log the user in via the source head code, actually. we're gonna ask the user a username and a password, make them input that, and use that information to sign them up. So, for that, I'm going to use two methods. Let's write it now. First one is called getInput. It's basically what it basically does is write some string and column and wait for an input. It's really basic. Static string get input. We're gonna get a message from the code and input that. Console write. We're gonna write the message. It's actually 0. Yep. And we're gonna pass the message as a first argument. After that, we're going to console read line and get the input from the user. For the password, we don't want to see the password in the console. We don't want to mask that. So I have a snippet for that too. Warp running get password. Yep, this is it. It actually does the same thing. It writes the message and waits for the input. Let's make that like this. Okay. And for the first step, I have a snippet for that too. So let's write that. We're gonna get username, password, and ask the user a mail. We're gonna sign up that user, and after that, write a user registered successfully, etc., etc. Let's write that. For this one, we're going to use the sign up async method in the Cognito. I am some Cognito identity provider. So let's write that. Cognito sign up async. Sign up async is as a sign up request model. We're gonna create new sign up request model and actually have this model outside because we're going to do something with that too. So create a new sign up request. We're gonna pass the client ID to that. We can have that configuration from the config we just created, and it was called client ID. It will fetch the client ID here. After that, we're gonna pass the username and password to there. After that, we're going to give a user attribute to this because if you remember, we actually require an email address for the users. So we're gonna have to pass it to user attributes. We're gonna create a new attribute type. It's a name value keep here actually. We are saying it's for the email attribute and its value is mail. After that, we can pass the request user sign up request to the sign up async and await that. So let's call it read line here. That way the console keeps opened. Let's go to the Cognito service. Go to the user pools and check if there is any user there. Users and groups, there's no user right now. And let's go ahead and try the sign up experience. Yeah, my username will be this. My password is this, and my mail address is this. Let's wait. Yeah, user registered successfully. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Cognito user pool. Yeah, as you can see, my user is created, but its account status is unconfirmed because I actually have received an email right now. It contains a confirmation code. I have to give the confirmation code to the Cognito, and after that I will be actually have it confirmed and use that user. So let's go ahead and do the rest of the demo. Step 2. For the confirmation, we're going to ask the user a code, and we're going to pass that code to AWS. It's called confirm signup async method. So let's go ahead and do that. Cognito confirm signup async. It asks us a confirm signup request model. Within that model, we're going to pass the client ID here too. Client ID. After that, we're going to pass the confirmation code that the user inputs and the username. We actually have the username because the user inputted that before. We're going to await that method because it is async. So let's go and run that too. I'm going to delete that user because I want to use the same username. First, you have to disable the user, then after that, you can delete the user. So, there's no user now. My username is this. My password is this. And my mail address is this. I will receive another verification code here now. So let's wait for that. Yeah. It's 491784. My user is confirmed now. Let's go ahead and look at that. Yeah, my account status, as you can see, it's confirmed. but we're not done yet. We have to actually sign that user up. We can take a look at how we can authenticate a user via username and password on the backend side. So after this one, I have another step. We're going to actually ask the user for its username and password again. We're going to initiate authentication as an admin. Admin stands for the actual backend. And we're going to pass the token to Cognito and have the actual credentials that I can use to access the AWS resources. So for that, we're going to go ahead and initiate admin sequence, authentication. Cognito have a admin initiate auth async method. This method requires a admin initiate auth request model. So let's create that. Actually, I have to do something else with that model too. We're going to pass the username and password to the auth parameters. Because of that, we have to actually do this outside. Let's call it auth rec request, and we're gonna pass the user pool ID that we set before in the app settings. My user pool ID is here. We get that user pool ID from the general settings. You can see that too. I'm going to get it from the user pool ID configuration. After that, we're going to pass the client ID here too. Config client ID, and we're gonna set the authentication flow here. As we mentioned before, we are using the admin no SRP auth. Let's set that auth flow type. Admin no SRP auth. I'm done with here, and we're going to actually have to pass the username and password to auth parameters. Auth rec request and auth parameters dot add. It's a key-value pair. We're going to set the username to username and auth request auth parameters. You can actually see the required fields here in the auth parameters comments. If you are using the admin no SRP auth, you have to pass the username, password. It's required. If you're using the app client to use client secret, we uncheck that if you are remembering. But if you didn't uncheck that, you have to actually pass the secret hash here to the client secret. Secrets. Let's add the password here. I'm done with the authentication request. Let's pass the authentication request model to admin initiate auth async. This will actually give me a response. Have the ID that I have to use after this one. So I'm going to set this to auth response. Yeah, this to do is what we're going to do. Prepare the Cognito credentials from the response. My user is actually authenticated here, but don't have access to AWS resources for now. If you want to do that, we have to create new Cognito AWS credentials and add our login to that credential, and we can use that credentials to have access to our AWS resources. So let's create Cognito AWS credentials. It's in the Amazon Cognito Identity package. I'm going to call it credentials, new credentials. We're going to have to pass the identity pool ID to this. So it's in the config identity pool ID. Identity pool ID is this. We get that from the actually here. Let's go to Federated Identities and go to the application that we created before, and we can see the pool ID here or here. We pass that and actually have the region endpoint too. It's in the US West 2 Oregon. After we're done with the credentials, we're going to add the login from the authentication response. We're going to say credentials dot add login. We're going to pass the provider name. If I remember the configuration that we copied and pasted, identity provider is here, but we are going to actually have the user pool ID. After that, it's say Yuri actually. So let's build that. First, let's get the config identity provider, and not here, slash config our user pool ID. And we're going to pass the ID token that we're going to get from the authentication response that we just received out. Response. Our authentication result is here, and we're going to pass the ID token to here. After that, we can see the logins count. Let's write that too. Right line. Total login count is credentials logins count. This will actually give me the count that the credentials logins count. How to explain that? This credential will actually can be multiplied. So from this client will be the one client, and other one, if there is any other client that logs in with that information too, the login count will be incremented. So let's go ahead and run our terminal. I'm going to actually have to delete the user too. Let's go ahead and go to the Cognito service again. Manage our user pools. CODERUNNER. Users and groups. This is the confirmed user. I'm going to disable that user and delete it. Let's refresh. Yeah, there's no user error. We're going to do this same process here. My username is this. My password is this. My mail address is this. I'm going to receive an email with the confirmation code. My confirmation code is 482743. So my user is confirmed now. Let's go ahead and look at that. Yeah, it's my user is confirmed. My user name was this. My password was this. Let's try to log in. Yeah, the login is successful. Total login count is 1 for that specific user. That actually completes the demo. So let's jump back the slide.
It's a great demo, actually.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for watching us. I'm actually sad because this was the last one. We're going to do CodeRunner series is season 2.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of